again, my name is Ben Fulton. I am the executive director of Camp Tomashinga, just outside of Junction City, Kansas. So thank you, first of all, for just allowing me to come and be a part of this wonderful community today. Sorry, I'm going to move around a little bit, if that's okay with you. This morning at Sunday school, I was blessed to join your group, and we talked a little bit about the Good Samaritan. And it just so happens that's what I'm preaching on today, is the story of the Good Samaritan. So I'm going to read this to you. This is from Luke, the 10th chapter. It says, "Just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. 'Teacher,' he said, 'what must I do to inherit eternal life?' He said to him, 'What is written in the law? What do you read there?' He answered, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself.' And he said to him, 'You have given the right answer. Do this and you will live.' But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, 'And who is my neighbor?' Jesus replied, 'A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, 'Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." Great story. Okay, we talked about it this morning. This is one of those things that, this is 2,000 years ago, give or take, right? And it still applies today. Who here has ever been in need? Anybody ever been in need here? Need for prayers, whatever it may be. Or who's ever helped someone else? That's the same kind of deal. And it's relevant to this day. But I want to look at the story just a little bit. Whoa, tree down. Storms everywhere still. So let's look at the story. We talked about it a little bit this morning, but now it says a man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho. Someone pointed out this morning that doesn't say who this man was. It just says it was a man. But what we do know is the road from Jerusalem to Jericho is approximately 19 miles, okay? So that's a haul, right? Anybody ever been in the Middle East in the summertime? I know you two. I've been there with Jesse. So it could be really, really hot, right? So that's a long stretch, really hot sand, long time ago. But it was also known to be one of the most dangerous roads in the region. Okay, so you've got someone who is going and it doesn't say, he's either going on a journey or he's coming back from one. Doesn't say, okay? But we know that he's on a journey of some sort and he's going down this road. At this point, it's no surprise that he was robbed and he was beat and left half dead on the side of the road. This guy's having a real bad day, okay? And so then it says, so by chance, a priest was walking down the road. Now, everybody knows, like pastors and priests, right? They help everybody, right? So, he's just wandering along. But how many pastors have you ever known? Have you ever seen a pastor late for church? Okay, they cook on by. So I can see him say, "Oh, someone else get to that guy," right? So he passes by. Then a Levite. Now, the Levites are they're kind of the, I guess to relate it to today's standards, Levites are just like the good Christians, because everybody expects a good Christian to help someone on the side of the road. I mean, he's bleeding, he's beat up, he needs some help, right? But how many of you have been anywhere, whether in the country or in the city, and you see someone, I don't have my phone on me, see someone like this, just walking down the street? Go to Topeka or go Lawrence, Kansas City, wherever it may be, and they're just looking down at their cell phones. And so, see somebody on the side, get to that later. I really got to check my Facebook right now, okay? So the Levite goes by, and then you've got the Samaritan. Here's the big twist in the story, okay? This is nobody likes the Samaritans. They do things that nobody else should do. They're kind of the people we don't talk about over here. We just let them do their thing. And so the point is that, and Jesus is telling this story so it relates. The people that you would expect would stop and help this person don't. But the Samaritan is the one that stops and helps him out. Now, what's significant? What do we know about the Samaritan at this point? Okay, if you look deep in the story, you look kind of at his surroundings, okay? So it says he stops and he helps him, and he bandages his wounds, and he pours oil and wine on it, and he puts him on his animal, and he takes him to the hotel, right? Okay, so he's going down this road, but he's prepared. So he's either going on a long journey as well, or he's just getting back, right? So because he's got all this stuff. I mean, you don't just walk around with an animal and all this stuff, right? So not only does the Samaritan that nobody expects to help stop and help, but he takes his time and he goes the extra mile. So he takes him to the hotel, gets him checked in, pays the bill, and says, hey, if there's anything else, if he orders room service, I got it. I'll come back and pay you. Wow, nobody expects that out of this person, out of this Samaritan. And so that's kind of the significant piece of this story is Jesus is trying to say, okay, so tell me, which one of these three? Because it's the lawyer, the studier of the law, the teacher that's asking these questions. And so Jesus says, okay, so you're so smart, you tell me which one of these three are being a good neighbor. And he says, one that took care of the man. Well, of course. That's, it's common sense. So Jesus comes back, right, to save us because we were kind of screwing things up at some point, right? So he came to define, to say, hey, this is how you do it. So he's taken us out of, at this point, the Jews, he's taken them out of the law, right, out of the books, and he's saying, hey, let's put this human component to this. We're here to be here for each other as a community, right? I mean, isn't that what it's all about? So that's what he's trying to say. Okay, look, you're smart enough to know what's in the book. How do you apply it, right? For the military guys, any veterans in the crowd, anybody that's served in the military knows, okay, yeah, so you can know it, but if you don't apply it, it's just a book, right? So now we're going to put that story on hold, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about camp. So Camp Tomashinga is located on 840 acres just south of Junction City, Kansas. So it's right in the Flint Hills, beautiful area, and it's the developed part of camp is very small. Okay, so it's we have some cabins and things like that, but the majority of the property is just open prairie. So, and if you guys live out here, you can appreciate that. The dark, the stars, the nature, the sounds that go with that, right? So 2 years ago, I'm still pretty new out at the camp. I've been serving out at Forbes Field with these guys for the last 18 years or so, but this is fairly new to me. But we had this young man from Overland Park, Kansas, come to camp. He had never been outside of the city before in his life, okay? He had, maybe on the road, on I-70 going to Colorado. They're from just a suburban church, and he just had never really gone camping before. But he had a bunch of friends in the church that had been there before, and they were like, hey, you got to come. This is great, because we'll sing songs and we'll camp out. We'll do all these things. And then they tell him about this bus. Okay, so there's this big old school bus way out on the far back side of the property. Nobody knows how it got there, why it's there. It has no wheels, no tires, has an old motor in it, and there's trees growing up around it. So they start to tell these spooky stories that, hey, it's a haunted bus, right? Okay, so there's this kid. Okay, I'm painting this picture for you. This kid, Overland Park, Kansas, never been outside the city lights, and he's like, okay, this sounds cool. So he comes to camp, right? So this is kind of how the week goes when you show up to Camp Tomashinga. You show up and you see this big white chapel and this big open meadow, and kids start playing games. They're having fun, and they're just kind of enjoying each other's company, and so this young man shows up, and they're playing name games, and this year they're doing human foosball as a get-to-know-you game. I don't know what that is, but they're going to have fun. And so they're doing that, and then they go straight from there to unload their stuff in their cabins. So they're all picking out their bunk beds and stuff like that. Then they go straight from there to another game, and then to dinner, and then to another game. So it's all very, very busy, right? So very high energy, and things are really happening. Well, then we do opening worship. which is awesome. It's my favorite night of the week because that's when the counselors actually let me really be involved. So, I get to play guitar and jump around the fire, get the kids really excited, and then we kind of start to slow it down just a little bit. And then the kids all go with their counselors back to the cabins. Well, so the walk back is a little bit dark. So the cabin with this young man from Overland Park, they started, kind of just walking off with their counselor, and they realized that nobody had brought a flashlight with them. Okay, so now, to most people, no big deal. Okay, so there's still some moonlight. I mean, you can still see where you're going. It's not like you're walking through really dense woods or something. But to this young man, he was like, okay, this is a little freaky, okay? And you got crickets and frogs and things, all these sounds of the woods. And so now all of a sudden, the idea of going to camp out by the bus at the end of the week is not such a great idea, okay? And so they made it back, and they said, okay, well, we'll just keep going through camp. So as the week went on, they do canoeing, and they do archery, and they do high ropes course, the challenge course, the zip lines, and the low ropes challenge courses, all these things. They go swimming. They start to build this community, okay? And so, but this is all building up. They want to, at the end of the week, go and camp out at the bus. And so this kid, he's starting to kind of warm up to the idea, still a little freaked out, but it's okay at this point. So, because now they've built this trust of community. And so at the end of the week, we have a great time. We go out and we have a camp dance. This guy doesn't dance, but everybody else does. I play the music. And so they do this kind of dancing around, and then I wander off over to the hill, and this is another favorite part of mine, is I put on my cowboy hat, I get on the tractor, and I do hayrack rides. And it's a hoot. It's great because we got kids on the back singing songs, and they're just having a great time. So the last hayrack rides of the night are the people that are camping out. So last night, young man from Overland Park, his cabin, all their buddies, and then so there's a boys' cabin and there's a girls' cabin, and they're all camping out. Now, granted, they're about a mile apart from each other, but so we go and we drop the girls off first. And so so we're out on the Flint Hills, on the prairie, and the sun is setting, beautiful orange glow in the western sky, and then the stars are starting to come out, and we're just kind of bebopping on the hay wagon. And I hear the counselors and the campers, and they're all singing songs. And I'm like, man, this is kind of a realization of a dream for me. I love this. This is fantastic. And then all of a sudden, you hear a coyote howl. And it's silent. There's no more singing. There's no more excitement. And now they're just thinking, it's dark, and we're going out to sleep at a haunted bus. Are you serious? And so they get out there. And this young man, this whole week, he's wanted to conquer this, this fear of trying to camp out. And so once you get up to this area, the bus is about, probably about 30 yards from where I'm standing. And there's a little mowed path that goes up to it. And so we finally wrap around. And their counselor and I start making building a fire, so they got some light. And they start kind of unloading their sleeping bags and their pillows and all that kind of stuff. And this young man's standing right here at the entrance of where the bus goes, and he starts to walk. And he's going to touch the bus. He's pretty freaked out at this point still, but he starts to walk really slowly. And so one of the campers says, "Hey, Ben, come here, look at this." So, okay. So we start looking around, and there they are. They're starting to gather behind him. All these people that have been with him all week, and he starts to walk back to the bus. And he doesn't know that everybody's watching at this point. He goes up, slaps that bus, turns around, everybody cheers, yay! And he walks back like, no big deal. It was kind of one of those things where it was just really neat to see him and how that group of campers all came together, and now they have stories together. So how does this tie into the story of the Good Samaritan? How does that fit? Look at yourselves. Look at the people all around in this room. You guys are neighbors to each other. Christ calls us to be in community with each other. That's the point of the Good Samaritan, of that parable, is what? Hey, we're here for each other. That's what we do as Christians. And that's what we do out at camp. We try to provide an intentional Christian community where people can feel safe, they can be there for each other, and they can build their Christian story with each other. So that's kind of where we stand with that. Now, this summer is going to be especially fun for me. I have a passion for people that are called to a vocation. What is God calling you to do? That's our theme this summer. And so now raise your hand. Where are my campers at in here that are coming out this summer? Are you coming too? The others are gone. All right, it's going to be a hoot. You're going to have a blast. I'll be there, I promise. My kids are going to camp that same week. But you'll learn about what it is to be called. What is a vocation? What is God calling you to do? And we'll look at your gifts and things like that. So it's going to be a great summer. But as we wrap this all up, we're all on this journey together. Just like the Good Samaritan who stopped his journey, just like the man traveling down the road, we're all on this journey. And the only way that we can do it is together as a community. That's what Christ calls us to do. Blessings on your journeys, and thank you again for allowing me to spend some time in your community. Blessings.